Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. We have a jam-packed episode for you this week. Doug is digging in on Kentucky's school safety efforts and whether they're truly a model for the nation, as GOP senators would have you believe. Over in the campaign corner, we'll chat with Megan Brannon, the Democratic nominee for the 70th District. Then we're going to be joined by an actual colonel, Representative Pamela Stevenson, for a Q&A with our Kentucky Colonels. We're going to close out with our action and events calendar, although I'm not actually 100% sure we have any events to share. We'll see. Maybe some will appear by the end of the show. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? Folks, we know we're a poor state with poor health outcomes. Yet we elect a GOP supermajority to do everything possible to cut government services and tribute to lowering the tax burden on rich folks in our Commonwealth. Instead of lowering the cost of insulin or supporting more social workers or raising our pathetically low minimum wage, we have got a gang in Frankfort bound and determined to ending access to abortion care and ending any efforts to increase gun safety in Kentucky. If you think this is completely backwards, we need your voice and your vote. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky. I say it every week. It's easy. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you spend time on social media. We're not on TikTok. And actually, our Instagram presence is a little muted. But hey, come on over to Twitter and Facebook, where the old people hang out. Make sure to like and share our comment or comment on our content. If you like what you're hearing right here on Kernels of Truth, give us a thumbs up. Leave us a review if you're listening to us as a podcast. Those reviews are really important and help make sure more folks expose us to their ear holes. Let's see. We're going to get started, though, because remember, folks, it's not, as you might be able to tell, this isn't your normal live stream / podcast / talking heads on the internet. It's a digital demonstration for a more compassionate Commonwealth. And with any good demonstration, you need to bring a sign. So what is your sign? Who are you? Where are you? What does your protest sign say today? I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Childsburg in Lexington. My protest sign says today, defend our democracy, elect Democrats. Yeah, I might have been watching these January 6 hearings. I might have been doing some of that. Anyway, let's check in with our fantastic co-hosts. I know Kimberly is here. Kimberly?
I am here. Hi, Aaron and everybody. I'm coming to you live today.
From the parking lot. You're in a parking lot.
Yes, at the parking lot of the Louisville, Jefferson County Democratic Party headquarters. I will have a lot to report to you next week, but we are in the throes right now of voting on some major things. And so that's why I'm here at the headquarters. So my protest sign says today, thank you, Andy, for getting that committee together for cannabis. Thank you, Andy.
Cannabis. I don't know if folks know this about Kimberly, but she's a supporter. She's a fan. Maybe Delta 8, maybe other things. But at any rate, glad to have you. Thank you so much for stepping out from your meeting. I'm interested to see how this all works out. But let's turn it to Doug and what he's got for us.
Sure. I'm Doug Price from Harrison County, Kentucky. And tomorrow people can join me at the Flat Run Veterans Park in Cynthiana, where the Harrison County Democratic Women's Club and the Harrison County Democrat Executive Committee are hosting a free picnic along with entertainment. Festivities start at 6 p.m. Tonight's campaign corner guests will be there along with other local Democrats who are running for election. My sign says, vote for progressives.
Nice. Progressives, not just Democrats, not a blanket endorsement. It is, in fact, a little more specific. I like that. All right, so let's get into news of the week. We got a couple stories we want to share with you and get some feedback on. So number one, most important, biggest news in our state's political landscape. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's overselling it. But Donald Trump, the disgraced former president, the guy who I think should probably be in jail if Merrick Garland is at all paying attention to what's happening in Capitol Hill as we speak. Donald Trump, that guy, The guy who single-handedly tried to steal an election and destroy our democracy. That guy, Daniel Trump, he has endorsed Dan Cameron, our attorney general. So, somebody who's got a lot of experience with, the criminal criminal side of the legal system, is endorsing our attorney general. Does that seem good? Does that seem big? Does that mean the GOP governor's race is over? Is Trump magic mean that, he's clearing the field for Dan Cameron? I don't know. I'll be honest. I think the idea of somebody who should be in jail endorsing you shouldn't be that big of a lift to your campaign. But let's be honest. We know that this is a red state, a red Commonwealth. And somebody like Trump coming out for somebody like Cameron is a big deal. It's interesting to me on a number of levels, right? So first, what about his former UN ambassador, right? Kelly Craft is clearly setting herself up to run. She's not announced yet. She spent that exorbitant amount of money to hang out with him at the Kentucky Derby. I mean, she didn't spend the money, her husband did, but huge mega donor, GOP mega donor, Bob Kraft. This guy, this coal magnate, has spent so much money backing Republicans, backing Trump endorsed folks, and doesn't even give her the courtesy of letting her announce before he backs somebody. Dan Cameron. Again, what about Dan Cameron? What do we know about Dan Cameron? How did he get into the political landscape? This young, fresh fellow. He got there because he worked for Mitch McConnell. Trump, I thought, hated Mitch McConnell with the passion of 1,000 suns, yet he still is willing to overlook that to endorse Mitch protege Dan Cameron for the governor's race, even though, his own UN ambassador is probably going to get in. Ryan Quarles, who a lot of people think is, another rising star in the Republican Party, totally discounts all that stuff. Enters super early. Maybe Trump got confused, thought the election was happening this November. It's over a year away, and he's already endorsing. It seems very suspicious to me. I don't know. What do you guys think? Doug, do you have any thoughts about this endorsement?
It does seem strange. And it could be that I don't know how Trump made that decision. If he knew that Cameron is Mitch McConnell's protege, you would think that he might hold that, being the kind of man that he is, he might hold that against him. I know, though, that at one point, I've read that Cameron at one point was being considered for a possible appointment to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, that's just amazing. The gentleman really wasn't even qualified to run for Attorney General, according to the guidelines, because he had never tried a case or something like that. So maybe he thinks that if Trump were to win again, then he has another shot at being on the U.S. Supreme Court. I don't know.
It's insane. How about you, Kimberly? You got any thoughts about this this endorsement? Has your Uber showed up yet? Kimberly, you're muted. Kimberly's doing other things. All right, so let's go ahead and just chalk this one up to Trump being a chump. I mean, I just feel like there's no advanced political operator that's going to make an endorsement this early who's going to it just seems so utterly ridiculous to me that he's going to endorse so early. He's going to spurn a huge spigot of GOP campaign cash, right? So Trump, who keeps, everyone says he set himself up to run again in 2024. Why in the world would he piss off a major donor for no clear political reason? Honestly, I think his endorsement matters. I think Dan Cameron gets an absolute boost. That's why Dan Cameron is proudly trumpeting it, even though, the lawlessness should give anyone pause if they respect the law. So, just file that away, folks. But, I think that Trump is, I don't know, he's high on his own supply. The fact that he's getting into this race right now. Anyway, let's move on to story number 2, which I'll do quickly. Medical marijuana in Kentucky. As folks probably know, there's been a bill in the House to try to legalize a very small piece of medical marijuana, right? So it couldn't be smoked. It had to be in pill form, I think. But, in each every year, it gets a little bit closer to doing something. It actually passed the House this year. The Senate, of course, is an absolute no-go. So it's something that's more and more popular. Andy Bashir realized, holy crap, these idiots are sitting on a winning political issue and not advancing it, despite the fact that 90% of the public polls as being supportive of it. 38 states have already moved forward with some measures of medical marijuana, a bunch of our border states. So it is something that I think the medical arguments are very strong. So he's decided he is going to, appoint an advisory committee and really smart, credentialed folks on this committee, 17 folks. They have put together an outreach strategy. So they're going to go out and do town hall meetings. I think at least 4 town hall meetings around the state to get the public feedback about medical marijuana and what we should be doing. And the first one is going to be held in July 6th in Pikeville. And then the next one is July 19th at the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet in Frankfort. So opportunities for people to weigh in, which I think is really smart because, there's a lot of question about what the governor can actually do about medical marijuana and whether he has any power to do it. But he has, created, this impressive Team Kentucky Medical Cannabis Advisory Committee. So, I think just showing very clearly that a lot of people are, supportive of allowing cannabis for medical use when prescribed for things like cancer, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, epilepsy, seizures, Parkinson's disease, Crohn's, multiple sclerosis, severe and chronic pain, post-traumatic stress disorder. Like there's a lot of, I think, medical literature that shows clearly there are gains to allowing this as a medicine. And of course, there are economic gains for allowing recreational use, but that's not part of the conversation yet. He's got Secretary of Justice and Public Safety Cabinet Carrie Harvey and Secretary of the Public Protection Cabinet Ray Perry as the co-chairs, and a lot of just really, like I said, credentialed folks coming together to have a conversation about what we should do. So there's a website they've launched. It's medicalcannabis.ky.gov. So you can, keep track of what they're up to, perhaps weigh in when the opportunity presents itself. And that's one thing I think that, we absolutely should encourage people to do, which is go ahead and take action and, make sure your voice is being heard at medicalcannabis.ky.gov. Annabelle's clearly a fan. I don't know if you're looking at the comments. So it's just smart. Like this is something that we've done around the nation to positive impact. Why wouldn't we do it here? Some people are skeptical that we'll ever get out of our own way to pass it. The Senate clearly has decided that they're a roadblock. One thing that's worth noting that what was it called? Like the Patriot Caucus or the Freedom Caucus or that kind of that GOP upstart group, the non-mainline GOP folks, they were able to kind of primary and toss out a bunch of actually committee chairs who did not GOP committee chairs who did not support medical marijuana. So it seems to be could be a pretty powerful issue politically. I think the governor's smart to kind of wrap his arms around it and show himself leading on it. And I hope he can make some headway. Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, the thing about it, you've got to get Robert Stivers on board, the president of the Senate, and or maybe revolt and remove him. Possibly if you could get Damon Thayer to kind of think about it. If you said that some of the tax revenue is going to go to the horse racing industry, there are ways that it can get done, but they're going to have to be creative, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a great issue to once again spotlight how the GOP supermajority isn't really working in the public's best interest, right? So Robert Stivers is like proudly opposed, right? And he's like, yeah, do you want to do something on this? You're going to have to get rid of me, right? Like, so, all right, I like that challenge. let's do it. He needs to be primaried by the Liberty Caucus, or maybe some miracle, and there'll actually be enough folks on the blue side of the aisle to get rid of him, if or people will cross over. So at any rate, good stuff. Thank you for weighing in on it. And I think we're going to now turn to a segment we like so much it has its own theme music. We are going to be doing Doug Price is Right.
Welcome to another edition of Doug Price is Right. This is something I really enjoy doing because I get to do a lot of research and find some really, I don't know, some facts that might startle you. This got started because Aaron sent me a copy of an op-ed that was written by Republican legislators, senators, Max Wise, Danny Carroll, and Mike Wilson. The headline read, "After school shootings, look to Kentucky's safety programs as a model for the nation." The op-ed mentioned efforts in 2013 setting a framework for emergency response procedures, including one for school lockdowns. That bill required schools to develop a school safety plan, share with first responders, and institute biannual drills. Funny thing though, this did not stop a school shooting that happened in Marshall County nearly 5 years later. The op-ed addresses that incident in Marshall County with some serious misinformation. Specifically, it said in 2018, a troubled young man shot and killed 2 students, injured 14 others in Marshall County. In contrast with the undeniable security and response failures in Uvalde, the shooter in Marshall County was stopped in a matter of minutes. I found something that directly contradicted that. What happened is that the shooter entered the school, went to the band room to make sure none of his friends were in the commons area where the shooting took place. Then he left there and went back to the commons area, shot students, dropped the gun, did not have the gun anymore, went back to the band room where his friends encouraged him to hide because of the active shooter. Apparently, a student told the teacher that he or she thought the kid was a shooter, and the teacher called the police. The police came to the band room and arrested the shooter, who did not have a gun. So it wasn't, the op-ed was misleading. A coincidence, one of the law enforcement people who worked the case was Matt Wise, who appears to be from the same area as Senator Max Wise. I remember this event and that Governor Bevin was very guarded about what information was released to the public. Seemingly, it was like he didn't want the word to get out. Here's a tweet by Bevin and others replying to that tweet. "Tragic shooting at Marshall County High School. Shooter is in custody, 1 confirmed fatality, multiple others wounded, much yet unknown. Please do not speculate or spread hearsay. Let's let the first responders do their job and be grateful that they are there to do it for us." There was a tweet response to Bevin. "Governor Bevin, I am sure that your thoughts and prayers will make all the difference to the dead. The problem for you, as I see it, is that your support of guns makes you complicit in murder. And we all know that pesky commandment, thou shalt not kill, right? Republicans apply the thou shalt not kill argument to abortion, but do not apply that to considerations for gun control, specifically removing assault-style weapons." Another person tweeted, "This is so blanking ridiculous, and it's where you morons go every blanking time. No one is talking about taking everyone's guns. We are talking about banning military-style assault weapons in our country. This isn't about freedom or the Second Amendment. This is about greed. Not much has changed from 2018 to present day." Here was another tweet response to Bevin. "Since you brought up the subject speculation questions then, what are you doing to prevent gun violence in your state? And also, where did the gun come from?" That was an interesting tweet, which was asked and answered during the investigation. The 15-year-old boy simply picked up his unsecured father's gun and took it to school and shot people. Where is the law that penalizes an irresponsible gun owner? As noted in the op-ed, there were other laws passed, including requiring schools to hire more SROs, schools to form their own police departments, but for the most part, this was an unfunded mandate. I have no proof of this, but I believe that the Republican-controlled legislature thinks that schools have substantial waste, teachers are overpaid, and the schools should just be able to cut corners and hire more SROs. The op-ed did note that the potential problem of finding more armed guards to patrol the schools, but mentioned that schools should just hire retired military. Is the answer more guns, more police, more security, or is there a much easier answer? Changing gun laws. There are so many comparisons that can be discussed. Remember lawn darts? Two or three people got killed, and then lawn darts, they're gone. The feds realized that requiring seatbelts would save lives, so now we have laws controlling this aspect. There are laws against drinking and driving. Why can't we have laws that prohibit the ownership of assault-style weapons? There is a federal law that a person has to be at least 21 years old to buy a handgun, but an 18-year-old can buy an assault-style rifle? Does that make any sense whatsoever? As we speak, the U.S. Congress is working on bipartisan legislation to address the gun problem we have in America. Guns rights activists would say that guns are not the problem. Prior to ending the ban on assault-style weapons in the U.S., there were approximately 400,000 of those type of guns in the general population, and now there are over 20 million. Why do we need 20 million assault weapons? Why can't an 18-year-old buy an assault-style rifle weapon? In the U.S., there are over 393 million weapons owned by civilians. The U.S. has less than 5% of the world's population and owns over 40% of the world's civilian-owned guns. I would think the starting point would be to control access to assault-style guns, make gun owners responsible for crimes that occur when guns are misused, and implement other measures to control our out-of-control fetish with guns. I'm a parent and a grandparent, and someday hope to be a great-grandparent. I can't imagine the anguish felt by so many parents, siblings, grandparents of so many school shootings. Uvalde, Marshall County, and Heath, Kentucky, Sandy Hook, Columbine, Parkland. According to a Wikipedia article, there have been over 370 school-related shootings in the good old US of A since 2000 in at least 43 of our states. When do we say enough is enough? That concludes another Doug Price is Right.
Thanks so much, Doug. It looks very much like the U.S. Senate is, in fact, moving forward on gun safety legislation. So we tweeted that out. I think Chris Murphy, who's been the acknowledged leader in the Senate and making sure that something gets done, something that has to be bipartisan, of course, because we've got the filibuster to get over. So it's not the bill that we all wanted, right? It doesn't ban assault weapons, doesn't raise the age to 21. The legal purchasing age to 21, but even as but it is, I think, a very clear step forward. It's going to do a lot of things. It's going to it will save lives, right? These are all proven policies we know save lives, and we kind of called the GOP's bluff on mental health, and they're going to actually fund a bunch of mental health issues resources, which I think is really useful and important. Gun safety issues aside, but it's a very smart and appropriate bipartisan step forward, and it would not have happened but for March for Our Lives, Moms Demand, all the folks who've been working so hard for so long to get some incremental support passed. So the idea that we've got these Yahoo Kentucky state senators loudly clamoring about how we're the model, despite the fact that it didn't work, despite the fact that it didn't work here in Kentucky, Marshall, clearly, which Doug just laid out. It also wouldn't have worked. It didn't work in Uvalde. Like the idea that we have a school, they had cops on the scene who wouldn't even try to open the door to stop the shooter. So, it's just, we got to get rid of the guns, diminish, more speed bumps to make sure it's harder for people who shouldn't have these guns to get these guns. And that's, I think, really what this bipartisan bill will do. So Rand Paul, of course, is going to try to weaken it all along. Rand Paul, who of course is a moron. Rand Paul, who supported Mo Brooks in Alabama. Mo Brooks just lost in the primary, thankfully, because Mo Brooks was a kind of insurrectionist in chief and kind of moron. But the thing that's amazing to me is Rand Paul keeps on heading out there. He hits the campaign trail. He's not spending time in Kentucky, but he's spending time in Ohio, where his backed candidate lost the GOP primary, spending time in Alabama, where his backed candidate lost the GOP primary. So it's kind of the kiss of death if you have Rand Paul supporting you in these other states' GOP primaries. Hopefully his run will continue, and he will in fact lose in November. But at any rate, that's, gun control is it's key. It's happening, and for what it's worth, I will thank Mitch McConnell for allowing this specific thing to happen. Right. So despite his long history of stopping all common sense gun measures. So we're going to need to move on. I'm looking at who we've got in the queue, and it looks like we're going to run right into Campaign Corner, which is really exciting. So for Campaign Corner, we're, quick 5-minute spotlights on issues or candidates. I think between now and November, we're going to try to fill Campaign Corner with folks who are actually campaigning for elected office. So our first installment of Campaign Corner with that specific focus, we're very excited to be joined by Megan Brannon, who is running for the 70th district, in the Kentucky House 70th district, which I think Doug might be in, because Doug has been very adamant that we talk to Megan. And I'm very glad that you're able to join us tonight, Megan. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I want to give you a little bit of background on myself. I am running for the 70th district, and we were affected by redistricting this legislation. So that includes now Harrison County, Bracken, Mason, and Robertson. So it looks different than it did before. I grew up in Bracken County and have 3 beautiful children. My background is in nursing, but my oldest son was diagnosed with autism when he was 2. So that completely changed my path in life. And I realized that employment was a barrier for those with disabilities. So I co-founded a nonprofit back in 2016, which employed and empowered individuals with disabilities. So I've been advocating on the local level my whole adult life, from nursing to starting a nonprofit. And now I want to take that to the state level. I feel like it's time. I want to share my passion for helping others, not just those with disabilities, but I'm a huge advocate for public schools. I am so disgusted with the idea of charter schools. They certainly wouldn't take a child like mine, that's for sure. I want rural Kentuckians to have access to affordable health care, and especially specialty clinics. With my nursing background, we have to travel easily to the bigger cities to even see a specialist, to see a dermatologist. We can't get that in our area. I also a big advocate for mental health. We definitely do not have enough support for, what mental health would have been anyway. But with this pandemic, we don't even know how our children are going to be affected. And I have twin 10-year-olds that didn't go on a field trip for 2 years. And when they did, they were excited because they didn't remember what that was. So we really have to do more for mental health, including mental health of our children. And I want public school teachers to feel valued and appreciated by our legislature. And I know they don't. They tell me they don't. And I absolutely hate that, because they have been vital, especially for my son with special needs. And I'm just so excited to hear what everyone else is passionate about. I'm getting out there. I'm talking to my future constituents, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go, and I'm ready for November, and I want everybody to get out and vote.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And that's a great story. That's a great, political origin story. And it sounds like you're doing this stuff for the right reasons. And I think that, you're the type of candidate we need to see more and more of. Folks who are, kind of plugged into their community, who are doing it for a reason, who who understand the challenges inherent in this process, right? So how you won your primary. Was there a primary?
I was unopposed in the primary.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, Aaron, the KDP just hosted the new candidates that are running, and some of the current candidates. And when we were in that room at the KDP office, we each got to tell our story, and it was so great to be in a room filled with all these people that just want to make a difference, that just want to help people. And I knew I was in the right place. There have been several times when I think, can I do this? Am I sure this is the right thing? And when I was in that room surrounded by all of those incredible candidates that just want to help Kentucky be as best as it can, it's going to be great. It's going to be great in November.
Well, that's awesome. And thankfully we're in a spot where, God willing, we'll be able to be out there campaigning, showing up where people are, spreading the word of your candidacy and doing that kind of real grassroots approach. Because I know, it's really important that people see the candidate, see the person that's asking for their vote, and not just, some newspaper ad or Facebook ad or something like that, but, get that kind of one-on-one. And I think hearing your story, people are going to want to kind of work with you and support you and hopefully vote for you in November. So again, congratulations on, making it this far. We'd love to hear from you as things move on. I'm sure Doug will continue to let us know how things are going on the campaign trail, but we'd love to check back in as we get closer to November.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. I'll see Doug tomorrow in Cynthiana at the picnic.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful week. We're going to move on now. That was Campaign Corner, which, as I said, we're going to try between now and November, have a lot more candidates so folks can hear, directly from the folks who are running for office, because, that's what it comes down to. It's not just about, talking about issues in the internet, right? Screaming into the void. It's about getting out there, burning the shoe leather and making sure that people have a chance to, put their values to the test and put it on the ballot. So we're going to now move on to our guest for the evening. One of course, one of our favorite guests who's joined us a couple of times. And, we're mostly really inspired by this person because they're an actual honest to God colonel. They've done the work. They have been in the military. They're retired and have now run for state representative. So that's Representative Pamela Stevenson joining us now, despite the fact that she's lost power. She's joining us to have a conversation. And we thank you so much for coming back on the show, Representative Colonel Pam.
Oh, I am so happy to be here. And thank you for letting your viewers know that I am in the dark, not about issues, but I am in the dark right now in my house. And thank God for cell phones.
Let's get right into it. We don't want to burn your battery out. But thank you so much for persevering. So you've done your session, you've been in the fight, and you were in it for a bit before, right? So this is your first full session. Am I getting that correct?
My second full session.
Second full session. Okay, you're a practiced hand now. And I've seen some of your comments. You're very committed to trying to work across the aisle, which I think is, obviously really smart when they've got a super majority on the other side. But how has that been going? Have you found some good relationships or some well-intentioned folks you can work with back there?
Yeah, the most important part of being empowered is to know what's so. And what's so is there's 75 Republicans and 25 Dems. That's number one. Number two, even when I traveled around the world for the Air Force, whether I was in the Middle East, Africa, it didn't matter what country I was in, what culture or what situation. People want their life to matter. You just got to find out what that touch point is. What matters to the person you're talking with? And then finally, we don't need to agree. I've been married for 40 years. I like to think that my husband agrees with everything I say and everything I do. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But you can make good things happen for Kentucky when you do the work in the areas that you agree upon. And they're recognized as some areas you might never agree on. And we can still move Kentucky from the bottom of the list to the top of the list.
Yeah, that seems, I think, just a very rational and reasonable approach, and it seems like it's paying dividends. It seems like you're having some success there, which again is, given the math that you just ran us through, the 25-75, doesn't mean, it means you got to be pretty smart, and you got to be pretty approachable to be able to get your stuff done. And support your, because you're sent there to represent your district, to support your district, to help your district. And if you can't find those kind of some areas of agreement, you're not going to be able to do much of that. What have you been most proud of so far in terms of, helping your district and engaging with your friends in the legislature?
Well, there are a couple of things. One is we created, one of the things as I went around my district and talked with people were feeling like things are always done to West Louisville, and that they never have any say in it, and they never have any money to do the things they want to do. So we were able to work with a bipartisan group to create the West End Partnership, which is made up of a board of people from each neighborhood, number one. And number two, they will have seed money to start looking at, what do you want in West Louisville? Like that, I have to leave West Louisville for most services is a problem. That people would like to own a house and cannot is a problem. That people want to rent and can't find affordable housing is a problem. So now we're giving this group that's already formed and they're getting their sea legs the authority and some money to get started with, to do the things for their community that they would like to do. I'll give you a good example, Aaron. 2 weeks ago, I was at a church summer camp program, and this 9-year-old girl heard me say that I was a ballerina. I had been a ballerina when I was younger. And she came up to me and she says, I want to be a ballerina when I get older. Will you show me some moves? And so she sort of just challenged me. She started doing flips and plies and twirling, and I had to keep up. And I was just struck by the beauty of this girl's dance. She was on her toes dancing. And she said, do fifth position, do this position. And I followed her. And finally I stopped and I said, let me just watch you dance, because you dance so beautifully. And when she finished, I said, where do you take lessons? She says, I don't take lessons. It's just something that's been in my heart.
Oh.
Why is it that someone that has such natural talent doesn't have access to ballet? And that's the story of so many in West Louisville. They have natural talents in a lot of areas, and we're not set up to support those natural talents. So I am happy about that. That we are beginning, it's not the end all be all, but we're beginning to create some type of say so with the residents of West Louisville. They get to say what they want, what they need, and we've given them money to put towards the important things like economic stability, businesses, and home ownership. The second thing I'm proud of is I was able to get some things done for veterans. But Kentucky has a high rate of veterans in the state. And we're a little bit behind when it comes to how well we take care of veterans. And I want to make us the preferred location. I envision in my mind that somebody retires in a California base and say, yeah, I'm retiring in California, but I'm going to Kentucky. New York, I'm going to Kentucky. Florida, I'm going to Kentucky. Do you know what they do for their veterans in Kentucky? Oh my word, they take care of the family, they take care of the veteran. They are on the ball, all because I serve. And that's the vision I'm stepping into. What can we do to honor those who are willing to give all? The third thing I'm pretty proud of is some of the voting legislation that we voted on. Like, for example, if you are homeless, but you're attached to a shelter, you can use the shelter's address to get you a voting ID card. I'm very excited about that. And a small thing is a resolution. We did a resolution to honor the last day of February the day that connects Black History Month with Women's History Month is a day to honor what Black women have contributed to America, because they are both. And the resolution is passed twice, 2 years in a row. So, and it's just a small thing. It doesn't come with a check. It doesn't come with any benefits, but it is a recognition that this world can work for all because all have contributed to this world.
That's awesome. That's a lot. That's a pretty significant amount. That's great. So I love the idea of the kind of engaging with veterans, supporting veterans. I feel like that's something that you would imagine, that the, the GOP, folks across the aisle would be supportive of, right? They like to talk about patriotism and veterans. Have you found some good colleagues to work with on those efforts?
Oh yeah, for example, when I did the resolution to honor Black women, the way in the resolution is written, if you really want to honor a Black woman, go home and honor all the women in your life. And the people that I spoke with, they don't mind honoring mama at home. It's the same thing with veterans. Rep McCooley is very good on veterans issues. The Rep Masser, he's very good on vet issues. So I formed some relationships across the aisle, and they're interested in doing different things for vets. And there are a number of male vets that are state reps, and it sort of made my landing a little bit easier because they took every opportunity they could to harass the colonel.
Now that they're not actually in the military, right? They can actually harass colonels, right? So
it's like the thing now. I can't get in trouble, so let me harass the colonel. And one of the nicest things that has ever happened to me happened because of them. When I passed my first bill, they hazed me, playful haze. And one of the things that the Marines said was, we would like for the colonel to sing the Air Force song. Now they thought I would be shy and wouldn't be able to sing it. But I'm like, oh, I get to sing on the legislative floor, one of my favorite songs, let's go. And it was really a great moment that had me be bound to my colleagues in arms.
Nice. So one thing I want to talk about, so, we just had the kind of the second official federal holiday, Juneteenth, right? Mm-hmm. So President Biden made Juneteenth a holiday, federal holiday, which I think is pretty, it's significant. But at the state level, there's been, House bills that have passed, but it's still not ever made it through the Senate. That seems to be a theme of the things we've been covering this episode. But
mm-hmm.
What's your take on that? Why do you think that Senator Stivers has not made this a priority to make it a state holiday, even though it's already a federal holiday? And do you think that matters? Do you think it's a sign of kind of where we are in Kentucky, or what's your take on that?
Well, I think here's what I don't want us to do. I don't want us to lose sight of the things that need to be done. I'm not going to exchange those for a state holiday. Now we can push the state. I think it's lovely because the Juneteenth holiday is a demonstration of what's possible when all people are included. Like when those slaves were told in Texas that you guys have been free for 2 years. They didn't know what free was. They didn't know how to spell free. They didn't have access to any system, but they marched forward and started to build lives. They were the genesis of historically Black colleges. They were the genesis of Black Wall Street. They were the genesis of what it is to build Black communities in America. And they had no access to the structure in America. So that points to what type of people, what type of honor and what type of work that we put in America. So I love that celebration for that reason. And there's some work to be done. We've got to figure out why the mortality rate of maternal mortality rate is high for Black women. We've got to figure out why children are being abused. We've got to figure out why our system is not working for those necessarily in foster care. We've got to figure out why it is that when we release people from prison, we release them without an ID, and without an ID, they can't do anything, and we prohibit them from taking advantage of social programs. So all of that is the work that needs to be done so that people can live thriving lives, no matter what they've done or not done. We say, united we stand, divided we fall. It's on the flag, it's everywhere. Then we need to behave that way. People need second chances, and they need systems that support second chances.
I'm with you 100%. For sure. Yeah, I hear you in terms of like, a holiday is nice, but it's not adequate to the challenge and the kind of the needs that are there in the community. But I do think it's a statement to some degree. And I would very much like to see not performative, but an acknowledgement that this is important. The birthplace of Lincoln, we should be absolutely embracing this, and we're not yet, for sure. So I do think it's a sign of much work to be done. This is just a kind of a signpost along the way that we're making some progress.
And it's an easy thing to do. It's an easier thing to do than resolving some of the issues that are facing us. And so I think it's going to get done. We're going to push for it. And while we're working on the other issues too.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to touch base. We wanted to have you on earlier because we knew that you actually had a primary, right? So you had a primary challenge. I think redistricting kind of mixed up a lot of things, and one of the things it meant was that you had somebody you were running against. How did that campaign? Obviously, you're here. You've won that primary. What was that like for you? How did it go?
The primary was very much we finished, I remember clearly, we finished, I believe it was April the 13th. We were in session every day until sign die at April the 13th. And then the next day, I immediately went into campaign mode because I had 30 days to fulfill on all the things you do in a campaign to make people know what you stand for and how you stand for it. Now, the new part of my district was Smoketown, over in that area. I hadn't been there before because it was in my district. So I had to get to know them, so they could get to know me. And that was one of the more difficult things in a short period of time, to have them know I'm doing the work. I've done the dance. This is what I have accomplished on your behalf. So that was one thing. And the second thing was, sometimes we are, everything just seems to be a kerfuffle, meaning up in the air. Like, are you a Democrat? Are you a Democrat socialist? What are you, and how does it work with the party? And so we had to deal with that as we go along. There were some ramifications of that we had to deal with as we campaigned. And my stand in the matter, what I'm committed to, is I'm going to campaign. I'm going to campaign on what's right. I'm going to campaign on what I've done. I'm going to campaign on my record, and I'm not going to get personal. So it was a good campaign.
Do you like campaigning?
I think that's funny you should ask me that, because when I started, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to knock doors. I got to do this. And then as I knocked doors and people actually came to the doors and people started giving me an earful of what they wanted and how they wanted, people were even citing to me their favorite part of my floor speeches.
No.
And they were just excited that I would knock on their door. And then I looked up and I'm like, I could keep doing this. I like this, talking to people about what matters to them. That's all I'm in Frankfurt for, is to impact what matters to the people in my district. And if I don't know what that is, I can't impact it. So I like campaigning because it puts me with the voter, and it allows me to listen for what makes the most difference for them.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, you know, I'm going to say it right now, and I'm going to say it consistently between now and November. Knocking on doors is not nearly as bad as you make it out to be in your head. Like, it is actually, you can have amazing conversations with people about things that, you know, that matter. You can hear what matters to them. You know, you can have a very like, yeah, sure, I don't know you, and I've just knocked on your door, and you can look at it as intrusive for a second, you know, and what you find is a lot of people have a lot of like deeply held thoughts about politics and about how representatives should be behaving and about what they want to see from our government and how they don't trust corporations, but they don't really trust governments either, you know. So I think there's a lot of, you know, a lot can be done with these kind of interactions, these one-on-one interactions. And our society is so, I don't know, like, it's not designed for those types of interactions anymore. It feels like, you know, you know, online, virtual, anonymous. Like, sure, you can spend all day beating up on people you don't know, but having a face-to-face conversation about things that matter, you know, it's still a unique interaction on many levels. So I'm glad you got out there. I'm glad you knocked on those doors, and I'm sure your constituents were very glad to meet you personally and chat with you.
Oh, yes. And one of my constituents, at first she answered the door, but she was a little hesitant, but she brought her dogs to the door. And so what I said to her was, do you mind if I take a picture of your dog? And she says, you like animals? I love animals. I'm the animal attorney. If you don't give your dog enough treats, enough walks, then they're going to call me and woof, woof in my ear. And she said, okay, take the picture. I took the picture. And she looked at it and she said, that's his bad side. Can you take it again? I can only take it again. But inside of that conversation, she was able to tell me what she felt about how we treated animals and wanted to know if there was anything we could do. So that's good. And then and one lady, she says, I'm glad you knocked on my door. I said, you are? She said, yeah, I thought you were an evil person. I said, why did you think that? She said, well, I just saw a picture of you and you were frowning at somebody and you looked like, I'm like, okay, I'll try to smile more. And she started laughing and she says, she had 6 questions and I answered all 6 of them. And she said, you do know.
Oh no. So I think Pam has frozen. Oh, you froze for a minute. But you answered all 6 questions. We should probably let you go because I'm very nervous about your battery life. And if anything happens where you actually need to call somebody that matters, I want to make sure you've got some battery life while you still have no power. But thank you again for joining us. Thank you for the work you're doing in Frankfurt and in Louisville. And we're so glad to have you as an honorary Colonel of Truth. And I see Doug waving his hand, so he probably has something he wants to say because I've not allowed him to ask any questions.
Just so you know, I tell everybody you named this program after me. So even though you didn't, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
And that's fine. We will allow you to do that. I just want to say that I watched you on some of your floor speeches, and you are amazing. I really appreciate your passion, and I can tell I don't know, I've never met you in person or anything like that. I can't vote for you, but if one of these days you're running for a higher elected office, you've got my vote. I appreciate you.
Oh, she froze again. She froze with a good smile, though.
We were just getting to the good part.
Yeah, he wants you to run statewide. Representative Stevenson, you got to run statewide. And then
thank you so much. Now you know you have to meet me for coffee so you won't have to say you've never met me before.
I mean, how many of these online interactions do we have to do before you can say comfortably that you've met her, Doug? Like, I don't know. She's been on the show a few times.
That's all right. That just means we need to have coffee. That's all. And I will make time to have coffee with you, Doug.
Have you been to Cynthiana? It is out of the way. It is out of the way, out of every way. It is so.
Oh my gosh, Cynthiana is like far, far, far away. It's like I've been there. I was there for a court case once, and I'm like,
were you defending animals? Is that what you were doing?
I would have been a character witness for you.
So clearly you must have met her. All right, we have to go. We're
Okay.
running late. We had a lot on this show, but you were definitely so great to connect with you again, Representative Stevenson.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, so that was, of course, wonderful Colonel retired, Air Force Colonel retired, and fantastic representative in Frankfort. So glad that she's there doing the work. All right, so we're going to throw it to, I think, Doug. You want to close us out?
Sure.
All right. There's not much to cover.
All right, here I go.
All right, do it. Get on it.
Okay. Take our poll. We've got a poll that we're trying to get people to answer. We've got 190 responses. We want to hit 500. And if you can take 5 minutes right now to help us pick the worst actions of this terrible, horrible, no good, very bad legislature. Once we hit 500 responses, we'll share with the media and help remind voters what the GOP supermajority is doing to our Commonwealth. And when we do that, we'll try to arrange it on a day when Colonel Pam Stevenson is going to be there, and we'll take her up on our cup of coffee. We are looking for people to join our team. We have a group of dedicated volunteers who really enjoy each other, working together, and that kind of thing. But we need more people to work with us. We're in need of a newsletter editor, some social media managers, folks who can phone back members and potential voters to engage folks in the fight for a more progressive Commonwealth. Join us. You can shoot us an email if you want to get more involved. Our email address is info@progressky.org. Again, that's info@progressky.org. We'll be back next week. We don't have the guests lined up yet, but I guarantee you it'll be.
We do.
Oh, we do.
Are you not reading the live document? You're not reading the live document.
Reading a document I printed 15 minutes or 30 minutes ago.
No, things have changed, Doug. Things have changed.
All right.
So we're back next week. We're going to close out Pride Month with Tina Ward Pugh. It's P-U-G-H. I don't really know how to say it. Tina Ward Pugh, Democratic candidate for Jefferson County Clerk, a former city council member in Louisville, long history being engaged in Louisville politics, and I think one of the first LGBTQ elected officials in the state. So we hope you will log in and join us as we close out Pride Month. All right, back to you, Doug.
Okay. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4. We're affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Production this evening was by Annabelle Nagel. She's still under the weather, and we really appreciate her hanging around and helping us out. And thanks so much for getting your kernels of truth out to the people, Annabelle. The Jones Report is a weekly live national local news talk and conversation show that occurs every Sunday at 7 p.m., hosted by Mike Breuer, Betty Foster, and Kimberly Cecil Jones. The Jones Radio Report program can be found on Facebook at the Jones Report Radio. Thank you, Nate, for the theme songs. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. And Nate is always there. Nate has been monitoring the comments and making comments too on our Facebook page. If you missed our weekly live stream on Facebook, don't worry. You can rewatch shows and see our source links on Facebook. Our audio podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Logo and some graphic content was provided by Couchfire Media. More information can be found at couchfiremedia.com. That's all for tonight. We'll see you next week. Bye.